Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Deal Talk. Our guest today, and you know what? I just realized, usually I'll go over the pronunciation of the name beforehand.
I'll give it a try.
And Jason Godinho.
There you go. You got it.
I nailed it.
You nailed it. I get people saying Godinho.
Oh, God.
Godinho. There's no tilde over the N.
Yeah, because I want to pronounce it like a Spanish name.
Yeah.
Like a Mexican, because you do look Mexican.
Ronaldinho.
Yeah.
You ever heard that?
Godinho.
No,
I
exactly.
have not.
No, yeah, but that's
But you do look Mexican. So.
I pass for a lot of stuff, man. I get Mexican. I get half black, half white. I get Cuban, Puerto Rican.
I never know.
I haven't gotten Chinese or Japanese, so that's good. But
I never know how to describe you. They're like, oh, which one's your? Oh, Jay's the dark guy.
No, it's all right though, because I feel like I'm a chameleon. I can blend with any culture.
I like that. And ladies and gentlemen, listen to his voice here. So you got a nice voice on the mic you got to listen to.
I'm just trying to catch up to you, Jay.
Yeah, right. Okay, sure. Yeah. All right, so let me. You guys know how I do it. I like to kind of paint the picture here and go back and let you guys know how we met. And so Jason and I met roughly about 11, 12 years ago. 2011, I think, was the first time we met.
I thought it was earlier than that because I was with my ex, Addie. Who
was it a smaller location or a larger location?
It
was the big one, right? Like the huge showroom we had.
Could be. I mean, where was a smaller location?
Let's ballpark. Let's 11, 12 years.
Still a decade. Definitely a decade.
Oh, for sure a decade. Yeah. No doubt about it, because it was definitely at least 11.
Yeah.
And so he came in, and we just got some furniture, and then you guys came back again, got some more furniture. So we really didn't, we weren't like friends. We were just acquaintances at best. I met your brother, and I mean, literally, we went 7 years, 8 years before my good friend Kat, who was on the show, Katrin. If you guys haven't watched her episode, it is phenomenal because she's been dealing with lifelong anxiety, and it's one of the ones we're getting the most feedback on. But that's another. So if you haven't tuned into Kat, check hers out. But Kat texted me about 3-4 years ago and says, "I think you know my boyfriend." And I'm like, "Well, who is it?" She sends me a picture, and it's Jason.
Yeah.
And I said, "You got to be kidding me! That's my guy right there." And so anyway, then all of a sudden, we were still kind of acquainted, but then we started hanging out a little bit, doing the double dinner date nights a little bit the last couple of years. And recently, all of our, let's call it kind of our faith journey, I would think we would want to call this, is how we're really being brought together even more now through Awaken Church.
Right.
Our newly enhanced faith journey, which Kat kind of followed us along here. And then, of course, you're with Kat. You came to support her. And we're going to get more into this later, by the way, but I just kind of want to set the tone here of how we met and how we're now in each other's lives, literally on a regular basis, which is fascinating in itself, but it's really cool. You know what I mean? Because I always had a lot of respect for you, Jason. I've always known he's a very successful guy, and frankly, man. And people are gonna now you're gonna watch me actually get to know Jason on video and audio today, because I know that what some of your businesses that you've had over the years, or like touch on the ones that I know about.
Yeah.
Because also people, ladies and gentlemen, are telling me that he's got quite the story to tell today.
I won't get into that.
Don't get into that yet.
Yeah.
Get into the ones that I know about.
Yeah. Well, to start the story as far as what you would just want to know what businesses.
Yeah.
So I've been involved with credit card processing,
right?
Merchant services,
yep.
Setting up business to accept credit cards for payment with my brother and Carrie, his wife, since 2006.
Yep.
And then I started my real estate development company in 2012. So I essentially looked to syndicate funds, start a project that we can add value to, and then essentially sell it or develop it and then sell it. So it's not quick flips. It's more like adding value to projects that may not have at glance value to somebody else.
Right.
So adding additional units, ADUs, accessory dwelling units, things of that nature, building second stories, various stuff to where even just entitling a piece of property with permits and things of that nature, then that's value added. Sell that to somebody else who wants to build it out. So that's our real estate development company. And then most recently we started Katalyst Wellness, which is our wellness clinic in La Jolla, as you know, that's specifically geared around changing people's quality of life through identifying where their hormonal imbalances are. Because hormones actually contribute to your personality, and it's an outward reflection of how you're feeling internally. So if you're deficient or imbalanced, that's going to project itself into the real world. Your attitude, your vitality, your energy levels, your focus could be all affected significantly by the fact that your hormone levels are off. And so your approach to life and outlook in life in general can be severely taxed by your internal status.
And so, Jason, on that note right there, by the way, when we've aired Kat's video, you've gotten quite a few clients already that are coming to get their blood panels because they listen to her thing. So we're gonna get more on this, by the way, because this part, which I've been going to you guys for a little over a year now, I believe, right? And I'm at 51 years old, and I can tell you I've never felt this good in my life.
That's amazing.
It's unreal, dude. Yeah. And I've worked out a long time and for 30 years, give or take. But once I started going to you guys, and I literally just had my blood panel back last week, and even the doc was shocked. He's like, your cholesterol's like, your triglycerides are going down. Like, so guys, and I'll reiterate this: if you're not getting regular blood panels, how important is regular blood panels?
Well, it's it's flying by the seat of your pants if you don't have them.
Yep.
Whether you're, let's say, doing competitions, whether you're doing lifestyle, or if you've never gotten it before, it's like ignoring your car that you drive every day to and from work, playtime, engagements, whatever the case may be, never getting a checkup on your vehicle at any interval whatsoever. It's like, I'm just going to drive this car into the dirt.
Yeah.
Well, you're probably going to get to the dirt sooner rather than later if you never have a mechanic check it out and give it a diagnostic run through, right?
Yeah.
And the mechanic can tell you, hey, you got things that you need to address now. You may have things you can address in 6 months from now. And this may be a year out. Maybe you don't need new tires for another year. But he could tell you that, and you may not know that. Or maybe he tells you your tires are a year past due date, And that's kind of the similar aspect of what blood work helps the doctor let you know in regards to your internal status. What are the things do you need to correct right now? Otherwise, you're going to continue in that danger zone that could lead to something catastrophic or just take years off your life that you would actually like to have, right? So it may not be catastrophic, but if you never get that blood work, you just don't know what you don't know.
And so let me clear something up here. I want to make sure this is, because I got every type of person listening and watching this podcast now. Is this for everybody? Like, because you see, like, look at, we're dialed in here. We're physically looking pretty jacked here. So a lot of people, and the cat, same thing. Cat's a specimen. So people might think that, okay, this is just for meatheads and bodybuilders. And is this for any person, like, watching, or like sedentary, hasn't worked out in 10 years, anybody?
Yeah, it's, no matter what kind of car you drive, it still needs to be checked out at some point in time. So absolutely. It's not that realistically somebody needs to come in and get our therapy in terms of a long-term plan, but the diagnostics is truly doing yourself a service, a solid service, because you can find out what decisions you need to make about your personal health and well-being moving forward that you didn't necessarily know you needed to make, because that information was not presented to you.
Right.
So when you find out about, hey, my testosterone is low, maybe that's why I'm not feeling as, much of a butt kicker when I wake up in the morning. Oh, okay, that would help me. Sure. Maybe I'm falling asleep in the middle of the day. So that would help me. Yes. Maybe I'm not feeling as excited at nighttime with my partner.
Yeah.
Oh, that would help me. Okay. That makes sense. Like, this is now something I get to consider doing versus just being ignorant about where your levels are at and not knowing that there is actually something that can help you. So yes, whether you're sedentary, whether you never work out, whether your diet's poor, these things can assist you. Now, patient compliance is a huge part of this, where if they're compliant with their diet, their nutrition, their exercise, their rest, and they tie in the care plan or the treatment protocols that the doctor is recommending for them, it's going to catapult them to the next level of, fitness or health and wellness. If they really want to get to, your size, give them 20, 30 years, but, but nonetheless, just at least making turning the corner and being healthy versus having a poorer quality of life is really the key.
And so, Jason, what would you say percentage-wise, if you could ballpark a percentage of how many people, what's the magic age you're thinking where things start to really decline? Is it 30 where hormones start to decline and go wacko?
There are certain hormones that tend to decline sooner, like, for example, DHEA.
Yeah.
That's a hormone in our body that's a contributor hormone to your mood, to your wellness, to building muscle, to losing fat, so forth. It's actually a precursor, or known as one step before testosterone and estrogen. It converts to those two, so it's a precursor for that reason. That peaks when we're 25, and then it goes on a severe decline. That's actually been recorded and through blood work. It goes on a severe decline from there. So that's something that, just by taking a DHEA supplement from a reputable company and knowing that it is reputable by one, getting your blood work before and then getting your blood work after for DHEA specifically would help you identify if it's verifiably a good company. But that in and of itself could make a significant impact when you're younger. You don't necessarily need to get on testosterone when you're younger.
Right.
But there are people that have come in and their stress levels are so high, cortisol, that that's affected their overall hormonal imbalance in and of itself. That is actually, I think it's, the percentage may be in the 70s as far as how much of a dramatic impact stress and cortisol levels inside the body affect your overall health and what type of afflictions, diseases, viruses, cancers that your body could be susceptible to based on the elevations of stress in your body. And nowadays, everyone has so many different stressors. The best thing for them to go on that they think is, hey, give me some medications. I mean, you guys already talked about that, so we won't dive too far into that. But that is and through advertising, that's the easiest way that people find relief. The shortest or least path of resistance, is let me go get some over-the-counter medications. And what we're attempting to do is say, hey, put that aside. Don't spend, most of your time dealing with the side effects of those medications. Let's go attack the root cause of your symptoms, right? So don't treat your symptoms with over-the-counter meds. Let's go to the root cause and mitigate and eliminate, hopefully over time, those symptoms.
And this is so huge, man. Now, why aren't traditional doctors, for the most part, advising? Why are they just saying, let me just prescribe a quick fix pill that will quote unquote take away your anxiety,
right,
rather than say, hey, guess what, let's go to the root cause? Can we sum that up in a
Yeah, in short, it's based off of our healthcare system and the fact that our healthcare system is reactive, not preventative. And so when somebody's actually needs something, like, for example, anxiety medication, if they did their blood work versus saying, oh, go ahead and take an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication, a Zoloft, or whatever the case, whatever the name of the drug is, if they did their blood work and saw that their testosterone levels were low or that their vitamin D was low or whatever other deficiency that they had and addressed it that way and replaced those or brought them back to their optimal level, more than likely could clear the deck of that anxiety. It still takes some time. But they're not suited in terms of the insurance industry to follow that practice. What they're suited to do is, this was the book I learned from. You have this affliction. This is the medication that you get, right? And so, or the pharmaceutical, to put it more specific. So this is the pharmaceutical drug that I studied in my school. And this is what's recommended for you, Mr. Patient, based on the symptoms that you're telling me. So that box is what they operate in. To come outside of that box and to go and learn a whole different evaluation and diagnostic process of, we're going to start with somebody's blood work, then we're going to integrate that into their symptoms and into their goals, and then truly give them a treatment recommendation form off of that. That's more unique. That's more preventative. That is absolutely preventative, and not reactive. So short answer is that.
Yes.
It's our healthcare system covers reactive medication, not preventative protocols.
And would you agree with the fact that this has a lot to do with the fact that route that they're taught under makes the system a lot more money?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Like sick people make us money. Is that correct? The system?
It does, man. We've had experience in our clinic with that. We, we try to help. This is a common case, so I'm going to bring it up. We have a lot of men that come in with, let's say, EDD, but also just in terms of arousal overall, and that desire aspect. That's one of the things that suffers as we grow older and we have a lower testosterone level. So we have men that come in, and testosterone does take a little bit of time to kick in, right? It's going to take roughly, I call it a bell curve of distribution. You have 80% of people that will respond to it pretty well in, let's say, roughly 4 to 6 weeks. You'll have 10% of that remaining 20% of individuals that will get it right off the bat. Like, they'll feel energized, recharged, ready to go. And then there's 10% of people that may have a delayed response to that. And that's because everybody has a different drug metabolism and a different dose response curve, as we call it, right? So because of that, we have some guys that still need something to bridge the gap between the time that it kicks in and they start to feel better and they start to feel more confident and they get that performance, back, so to speak. So we had an instance where a gentleman came in and said, "Hey, I'm definitely enrolling in this plan. Can I get something in the meantime to help me out? Can I get Cialis in the meantime?" So we placed an order for Cialis, and in the pharmaceutical list from the pharmacy that we order from, there was a couple different Cialis line items. One of them was generic Cialis, and the other one was Cialis by name brand. So we ordered 30 pills for that person. The bill came out to $2,400. And I was like, what in the world is this? So generic Cialis, I think, was like $5. No, I'm sorry, was $3. It was very low.
Yeah.
This was the name brand Cialis. Called up the pharmacy, said, "What in the world is going on?" They're like, "This is the generic, or this is the generic pricing. You guys selected the name brand, so that's why it's that much, because we build insurance companies."
Wow. You're kidding
That was my
me.
first experience with understanding how the system plays out.
Unbelievable.
$80 a pill, and that's what, and that because that would be covered by insurance in normal circumstances, that's why it goes down like that.
And so this is just one
One.
example of how many hundreds, thousands of medications.
Yeah.
So how much overbilling is happening in our
Absolutely.
Unreal.
You've
right?
heard the astronomical prices of some of these research drugs that just get approved by the FDA and then come out, and it's like goes up to $700 a pill, and it's like insurance is being billed for that, and it's how are Americans supposed to handle the cost of their insurance if these are the pill costs for their medications? It just keeps driving it up and up and up and up and up. So that to me right there, like that was very early in our in infancy of opening. So it just confirmed every reason why we started what we started.
Yep.
And since then, we've never ordered that. Obviously, made that mistake again. But man, that was like
wow,
$80, JD, for one pill, man.
Well, as opposed to $5 or $10.
Yeah.
That's insane. All right, so. And by the way, and one of the biggest reasons I brought Jason on the show here is because you're already hearing his knowledge, his freaking knowledge of the human body and physiology and the way it operates is it's and I know 20, 30, 40, 50 gurus in my lifetime that know more than I will ever even want to know. And Jason literally is at the top of that list as being one of the most knowledgeable guys, which is why one of the main reasons I brought him on today, to share this information. So if you're listening or watching, that hopefully you're inspired to, even if you don't work out, it doesn't matter. Get your blood panels, start getting monitored. Katalyst Wellness. So I want, and we're gonna get back on this stuff because I love listening to you speak about everything with the human body and how it reacts, and so we're going to get deeper into the stuff. However, everybody knows how I do this. Now we're going to go back and start peeling back some layers from as Jason Godinho as we know him and don't know him yet.
Should have that time warp kind of view.
Yeah, time warp. Now you're in your wheelhouse there.
Yeah.
Now let's go back and peel back the layers.
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
Fine. Let's find out where this guy came from.
Yeah.
We know he's dark. He looks Mexican. He looks kind of black.
We got to take off my hat so people can see now.
Yeah, he's got. And by the way, he's wearing the Legendary gear. Legendary was our Emerge team. We absolutely annihilated it. So he's wearing his
Next
gear.
year, numero uno, baby.
That's right, baby. This year we took home out of 51 teams. We were 5th overall. We were a couple seconds away from 2nd or 3rd. Maybe 1 or 2 matches away from winning the whole thing. So that next year, we'll be doing this.
I think our whole team's re-signed.
They are. In 48 hours, we re-signed.
Yeah.
48 hours, we had more signups for our merge team than anybody else. We had 60 signups in 48 hours after last event, which is, I don't think that's ever been done before.
Yeah.
All right, so we're good on that too. All right, so let's go back. Give me. Where were you born?
So I was born in India, Bombay.
Yeah.
Major metropolitan city there. It's now called Mumbai. It was renamed back in the 90s. And my parents actually moved here when I was 18 months old. So don't have too much of a memory of back there. But my mom's brother was stationed out here. So he was in the military, whatever. Can't even tell you the whole story as far as what service he was in, but he was stationed out here. And that's how they got their green card to come out.
And so your brother he had already obviously made the move.
Uh,
How did he make the? Or was he born here?
My
No, her
mom's
brother. Sorry, your mom's brother.
Yeah, no, he was not born here. He was born in India as well.
Yeah,
but
okay.
whatever his travels, his service,
Yeah,
got him out here in San Diego.
gotcha.
Yeah, and so my parents, back in the 80s, the whole dream for, I believe, immigrants in general, people who are not U.S. citizens and who are not in the U.S., there was the American dream for
Right.
them.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Asian cultures is that it's all about your kids. And that's, my parents made the biggest sacrifice for my brother and I to come here for our benefit. And my dad was you want to talk ballers. He was a baller back home.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. He had dojos, which are martial arts studios that were, thousands of students that he would train. So he's a 5th or 6th degree black belt.
You're kidding me.
In a martial arts style called Ketsugo. And it's a blend of 4 different martial arts. It's called karate, savate, which is flat hand, palm action, striking. And then aikido, which is using, somebody else's energy against them. And then judo, which is a lot of grappling and throwing and so forth. So in that 4 styles, he became 5th dan or 6th dan, as it's known, sensei for that. So he had students. He was training the Indian military, the Indian police force. He was he was up there.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. So he gave all of that up for my brother and I to come here because my parents wanted us to have, the education that America provided. They wanted us to get the good job and have the white picket fence and the family and all that stuff. That to them was the cultural dream that passed on generations as far as this country, America, land of the free and opportunity. Actually, for them, free opportunity was what they came here for.
But let me ask you this: since he was so successful, he had all these dojos. Why wouldn't he just say, "Hey, you guys are going to take over the business"? Or
absolutely, right?
Yeah.
That to me is the profound gift that they gave us.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see myself relocating to another country where I only knew one other person and had no business there, and completely rolling in success in my existing country.
It's incredible.
And I'm just going to give this up for my kids. It's the most selfless thing you can possibly do.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So that ties into, where my brother and I get this emotional connection to where we can't let people down because of their sacrifice.
Oh, man, I love that. Listen up, folks. Listen up. Because we've talked about this on other podcasts before. People who have come here from another country. And already, bro, I didn't even know this.
Yeah. It's huge. I mean, think about if you did that for your kids, right? Like that's unimaginable to think about that. And that is actually commonplace, like I said, for people in other countries who looked at America as a land of opportunity back in that time. And they still do to this day, but that's to actually say, hey, I want to do that and then work 2 jobs, like work jobs 9 to 5 to make sacrifices. So my brother went to USC and my parents, helped obviously pay for that. He got some loans himself too. And then I went to SDSU. I was going to go to USC as well, but my dad didn't want me to leave San Diego, and he's like, oh, I'll get you a car so you can commute to, SDSU. And I was like, yeah, okay. Well, I was going to actually do criminal justice as a major, and I did enroll in criminal justice as a major at SDSU. Then I switched to kinesiology, which is exercise, nutrition, and health focus, the study of the body, movement, so forth. And then I ended up switching to business management and finished off with that degree. So I've completed the college requirement that my parents, made the sacrifice for us to come and do, which was important. But then we started working for somebody, and I was like, oh, man, we're never working for somebody again after working for, who we work for as far as that goes. We learned how not to run a business working for somebody else.
Who's we, you and Logan?
Yeah. Yeah, we were. So he came back from USC. I know we're fast forwarding a little bit, but he came back from USC when he graduated and then got a job with a company that's engineering company that's selling software. He was selling software to engineers to create printed circuit boards. And printed circuit boards are those green boards that we used to see back in the day.
Yeah.
They go into computers and stuff, and now they're as small as, even smaller than your phone these days, but that's what goes in there, and that has all the kind of intelligence behind it. So engineers in their minds use the software to create that printed circuit board. And so they need something that's high power that they can, design all this stuff. We work with companies like Tesla and Seagate and all those, Raytheon defense contractors as far as working with those engineers to sell that software. And when I graduated, or actually before I graduated, I was the head trainer for SDSU as far as the Aztec Recreation Center. So I was not an athletic trainer working with the sports programs. I was actually training people in the community and students as far as getting their physical fitness together. So at some point in time, they said to me, hey, listen, you got to make a decision. You can't be the head trainer and train clients. We're going to an independent contractor format. So it was going to be a conflict of interest. And my brother said, listen, I'll get you an interview with my company. After that, it's up to you what you do. And he's like, you don't have any software sales experience. And so when I went into the interview and I ended up interviewing with 6 people, the vice president said to me, hey, you don't have any software sales experience. Why do you want to work here? And I said, well, I heard my brother's number 1 in this company. He's like, yes, he is. And I said, I want to kick his ass. And so he's like, all right, laugh just like you did. And then a week later, he said, all right, you're hired. So
I love that.
Yeah. First year I was there, I was just learning. Second year I was there, I finished 50,000 underneath my brother as far as number 2. And third year I was there, I ended up finishing up number 1, but he left 10 months into the sales year. So he said, I can't count that as a win. I'm like, get out of here. Get out of here with that stuff. So, we always had a healthy competition as far as that goes. But that's when we learned how not to run a company,
really?
Working for them. Yeah. That company was based out of Australia. They had a U.S. satellite sales office. My brother and I sold 33% of that company's business, and we were not making commission.
Oh, my, you kidding me? Yeah. How did you stay motivated?
We got some like bonuses.
Other than each other.
Yeah, some bonuses and stuff like that, but it was not a direct monthly commission. Then they went to a change to a commission plan, but after that, it was like, hey, listen, this is not for us. Working for somebody else is not for us. We need to, step out and do our own thing. So that's
and you're what, 41 right now?
41, yep.
41, and your brother is 43?
43, yeah.
43, okay. So going back, because you jumped ahead.
Yeah, I did.
You jumped ahead on me there. You know how this goes, right? I gotta bring it back a little bit here.
Reel it in.
All right, so give me high school. Where'd you go to high school?
We went to St. Augustine High School, so all boys Catholic high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not by choice, but not by choice. That was a parent's dream, man. We went to.
This is here in San Diego.
Yeah. North Park. So
North Park.
Yeah. We went to Catholic elementary school. We went to Catholic high school, and then I went from an all boys Catholic high school to San Diego State. That was interesting. That was an interesting first.
All right, hold
first
up.
semester.
Hold
you
up.
Can imagine.
Hold up. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Give me the first one. There was all boys. What was it? The elementary school?
No, elementary school was mixed.
It was mixed.
Yeah.
Just a normal public school.
No, private.
Oh, private.
Yeah,
okay, normal private school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how was that? Do you remember anything from it? Any?
Yeah, I remember getting bullied.
Really?
I remember getting made fun of.
Why?
Because I didn't have a pair of Nikes until I was 13.
So it's because you weren't dressing up to speed?
We had a uniform, but just being quote unquote an immigrant.
Yeah.
At that point in time, and being in a school full of other Mexican children, which it's funny that you said that earlier, but I would still stand out. I wasn't looking like a Mexican, per se, and that's nothing negative. I have a lot of good buddies that are Mexican, but they would point me out as being, somebody that's Indian versus part of their culture, so to speak. So yeah, I get bullied and get made fun of once again for not having the shoes or whatever other stuff they had. So. And it was all because my parents were cinching their belts up, so they would have the money to put my brother and myself in any college that we essentially decided to go to.
And was your brother also getting picked on and bullied?
Yeah. Picked on and bullied. Yeah, exactly. I mean, kids are just not.
Yeah, they're ruthless.
Yeah. So
did he ever come to your defense, and did that ever?
No, because it was he was 2 years ahead. So this was. So elementary school, we actually went to public school 1 year, and then we went to this other school, the private elementary school. Yeah. But, in different classes, he's 2 years ahead, so he doesn't always see that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is private elementary school, and then which one was the all boys?
St. Augustine.
This was high school?
Yeah, Saints.
So why did he make the decision, or they, your parents, make the decision to put you in an all boys school rather than just go to another private school?
Catholic faith, man.
Really?
Yeah. They're devout Catholics.
Catholics.
My grandmother was. She's the one that got me into the Bible,
the
rosaries, all that stuff when I was younger. I mean, my parents did too, but that was generational passed down as far as that
And
goes.
so give me your childhood as far as were you for sure church every Sunday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the other one? CCD.
No, it was just church. It was just
That's
church on Sundays. Prayers, dinner time prayers. Reading the Bible, that type of stuff. But what I didn't like growing up is seeing that people that went to church still had a disconnect when they left the church.
Right.
And so, and the other part that troubled me internally, which I was only as I got older, as I reflected on, was that Catholic priests go to seminary school, and so they're required to be celibate and not engage with the opposite sex, so to speak, and they're not allowed to have a relationship with a female in terms of end up being married, all that stuff. But then they get on the pulpit and then they speak about how you're supposed to operate in your marriage with your kids, and they unfortunately don't have the experiential knowledge. They are getting kind of third-party knowledge and wisdom, and yes, some of it they're drawing from the Bible. That's great, but it's like a coach drawing from a playbook that the coach has never played whatever sport it is they're trying to coach.
Right.
That just doesn't have a lot of credibility with me, and I felt like that is probably one of the reasons why people that go to Catholic Church end up just reverting right back to the things that they say they're not going to do the day they're in church or the hour that they're in church, and then yet they go back and essentially do everything they just said I want forgiveness for. And my parents are great teachers, and hopefully most parents are, but you can teach in two ways. You can teach how to do something, and you could teach someone how not to do something. And we learned a whole lot about how not to do things or how not to think through our parents. At least I could speak for my brother and myself because we've had this conversation before. So they would pray for stuff, but yet they would still worry about stuff. That's not a knock on them. That's just, I think, once again, that's just maybe more cultural. There's certain things that they observed their parents doing, and then they didn't break that trend. But I said to myself, independently of my brother, I was like, why would I pray this hard and still worry about what I just put all my effort into prayers about? That makes absolutely no sense. It's a contradiction. So if I pray, and it's not just praying, because God helps those who help themselves. It's if I've done every single thing that I could possibly do, in addition to praying, then I'm going to sleep at night every day perfectly well. In 30 seconds or less, I still fall asleep. Cat's super annoyed at me for that still. But it is the way I function. Granted, I still had my moments when I was younger where I was still troubled by, wouldn't say an anxiety, but I had my times where I was like, oh man, I can't sleep. I'm like, my mind is racing. And it just had to come to a point for me where I was like, the realization is it's the God powers within you to say, I'm going to pray, I'm going to execute, and I'm going to sleep in that sense. Like, it's like, there's no reason to frustrate yourself after hours when you can't do anything about it. If you haven't done what you needed to do during the daytime, by all means, you should kick yourself,
Yeah.
But if you've done it all and you prayed, then leave it in God's hands at that point in time.
So I'm so glad this came up because I don't think there's a person listening or watching that doesn't have an issue falling asleep. I really think that.
Yeah.
You're like a freaking anomaly, like I wouldn't believe. Like you wouldn't believe. So let's dig in on that real quick because that's so big, dude. Because I know when I can't sleep, it's because I'm thinking about the next day, things I got to do. A lot of times it's because I'm pretty excited too.
Yeah.
Like I'm excited about what I do. I'm excited about getting up. I'm excited about doing what I do here with the mattress company and this podcast.
Yeah.
So sometimes my mind's racing because I can't wait to wake up. So sometimes that's the case.
And that's positive as ever, man.
100%.
When you wake up and you haven't slept because you're so excited about the day, it's like you're not tired.
Right.
You're just ready to go, take hold of the world.
That said, it's more times than not, it's quote unquote stress about, okay, I got cash flow. I got to make a payment to American Express. I got to make a payment to here. Hopefully people will come in. Hopefully we do sales. Hopefully this, hopefully that. There's anxiety attached to it, which is what I think most people experience in some way, shape, or form. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what you're saying makes so much sense. You know what I mean? You just gave it everything you had that day. Pray about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Leave it in God's hands and go to bed.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. It's, through all this process of kind of coming back to having Jesus in the center of my life and God in the center of my life, it makes sense when, there was a certain amount of time that through the last decade where I didn't necessarily have Jesus and God in the center of my life. Still had quote unquote my faith.
Yeah.
Still believed in him, never lost that. But if you marginalize God and Jesus, your results will be marginal.
Mm.
Right? And if you bring them to the center and you really trust in them, then your table will be overflowing in terms of you just can't eat it all up.
Yeah, the abundance.
The abundance. So that's within just the last several months. That's just, just recentering that. And of course, the irony is Kat was the one with no faith who brought me back,
unbelievable,
to the execution and more of the active faith, if you will. And so it's hilarious. It's like God has a sense of humor.
He does. This story, and I just got goosebumps everywhere. This story that we're building here together, our two families, is unreal, man. And we're going to get more into I can't wait to dig in more because I, again, and people you're going to watch me get to know Jason today here. Like, because I know you just as this smooth guy, nothing ruffles your feathers, nothing gets you overly, he's always smooth. Nothing bothers him. And so, and I always knew that you were very a man of faith.
Yeah.
But to watch you now you're at church.
Yeah.
And I remember when you're like, yeah. And now I know why, because what you saw as a kid is people that, and this is what I had always seen in my life, is kind of people that were hypocritical, people that went to church and then didn't live godly lives. Yeah. That's all I've seen. That's why I stayed out of the churches. I'm like, I don't need any part of this.
Right.
I'm more godly than they are. I don't need to be in a church.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Then Awaken comes along and all that flipped. Then I saw people that actually were the same in and the same out. Mm-hmm. The kind of leaders of this church.
Yep.
Right?
You see congruence,
congruence,
and you can follow that
versus
finding a disinterest in the simple fact that people are saying, or they're taking these actions, but it's more like going through the motions and then really not executing when it's game time. You have a walkthrough the day before the game, right, to make sure, this stuff is going the way it's supposed to go, and then you get pressure put on you and you fold immediately. Yeah, that doesn't vibe with me. So yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. When you see it being consistent, then it's like, okay, that's something I can buy into.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like the people the other way, just basically just checking the box. Mm-hmm. They're checking. Okay, I went to church. Check. I said my prayers at church. Cool. Now I can just go back and do what I want, and then come back a week later and ask for prayer.
It's a very flimsy commitment.
Yeah. It's like, come on, guys, step it up.
Right.
All right. All right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where are we at here? We're at all boys. Catholic school. Give me a few minutes on that. Like, give me some memories of that. Like, what's it like? Now, hold on. Did you have any girlfriends creeping around in like elementary school, or were the parents like, you can't date a girl, you can't even look at a girl?
No. I mean, no. I tried to kiss a girl. Actually, I did in like second or third grade.
Did you really?
Yeah, my brother tried to blackmail me because he found out about it. What? I mean, I didn't kiss her on the lips. It was just like kissed her on the cheek. But she was, her name was Michelle. So pretty, blue eyes. I still remember it.
Oh wow. Yeah. Michelle, if you're listening, I don't
even know her last name. Can't remember. Yeah, I can tell you. But and then in grade school or elementary school, so 7th, 8th grade, I think I was another gal that we kind of went, quote unquote, the word was go steady back then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we know that word.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Some of the youngsters don't even know what that means.
Yeah, steady.
Yeah, exactly. What is that? So that was 8th grade, and then after that, it was high school. So we had a sister school, as they call it, called Our Lady of Peace, and that was 1.5 miles down from where we were at, but. You're not driving yet. You just start high school, 13, 14 years old. We saw them at dances, and then some of the gals would come over for cheer. I don't think they did cheerleading practice over there. I can't remember. They came over for some of the football practices and stuff. But we only got that kind of interaction as we got older and got into football as juniors, seniors, and so forth. So
did you play football in high school? Or
so my parents wanted us to focus on our studies. Of course, that was their biggest thing. I mean, God bless their hearts, man. They're awesome parents, phenomenal. We wouldn't be here, obviously, because if it wasn't for them, not only for their sacrifice, but they raised my brother and I with such phenomenal values. That's what makes us who we are today. But their focus was like, hey, you got to go to school. Anything regarded to school, they would pay for. But in high school, and so they didn't even really research the extracurriculars. They were just like school.
Yeah.
So if I could have played freshman football. We didn't.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that they had freshman football as a program. And so then sophomore year, I ended up trying out. I ended up getting cut because I didn't go to all the football workouts in the morning. We were supposed to wake up at 5 a.m., go to, was it 5 a.m. workout? 6 a.m. workouts before school started.
Yeah.
And so.
This is high school.
High school, yeah. And I didn't make those workouts. I didn't show the commitment that I needed to show. And the coach was like, hey, we got too many people on the roster. Like, had you made it to more of these, you probably have been in.
Why didn't you show?
I was just not committed. I was just like, took it lightly. I was like, man, I could just get in, just by going half-assed, and obviously that didn't cut it. So that was probably a major turning point for me, as far as making sure if I wanted to do something, I better go all in.
Follow through.
Yeah, exactly. And be consistent. Show up.
Next question is, why in the hell are they practicing at 5 or 6 a.m. in high school? That's absurd.
Yeah,
why would they do
it was
that?
just workouts during off season. So leading up to the season, right? And so it's like to get you, do your clean and jerk, power cleans, do your squats. I mean, it's like you're a football team. You'd have to have, you're a young kid. You need to get in the weight room.
Yeah, but high school, why not after school?
I think actually it makes you understand the value of actually waking up early. And
there's no
things
question about that. But still.
Yeah. You're just worried about when you got to take little Johnny to workouts at 6 a.m. I don't want to get off my real deal sleep mattress here, my system, my zero gravity system. No, but that was it. That was, but it made an impact, right? Because we had Tuesday, Thursday off season. Sprint workouts as well after school. So there was stuff after school as well. But from a team aspect, getting everybody there, working out, supporting each other, I saw the value of it after I fully committed.
Right.
When you're just, once again, it's marginalized, right? You bring something to the center, you start to get the results that you want. You keep it on the periphery, and you're going to get those marginal results because you're marginalizing the importance of it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's junior year, all in, named the captain. Of course. Yeah, I mean, I was at every single workout. I was at every single after school sprinting session, stayed longer, senior year captain as well. Yeah, I mean, that's, I only had 2 years though. And so it was a great experience as far as being on a team. And we went to the played at the Qualcomm before it was torn down. Yeah, 2 years in a row. Lost the Oceanside the first year, and then lost the Mission Bay the second year, both by under a field goal. We blame our kicker. No, I'm just kidding. It was a team effort.
It was just like a championship? Or?
Yeah. So CIF Division 3 championship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say real quick that what did you learn? Like, what did sports do for you? Like, just even though it was only 2 years, like to make you who you are, Jason, a well-rounded person. Parents were focusing on academics. For the parents that are listening, like, okay, do I get my kids involved in the sports? Like, I hear this a lot, especially football.
Yeah.
What would you say that did for you?
With any sport, I think it teaches you that discipline and commitment to really be consistent, because you're not going to get results with just pulsing in and out of something.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be there, like mind, body, spirit. If you're an individual sport, same thing, right? But when you play on a team and you have other guys that rely on you, you have to step up your game, because you have to have their back, especially if you're hoping that they have yours.
Yeah.
Right? You can't expect them to have your back, and then you're like, well, I'm going to check out here. This play, I'm going to give it half my effort. No, the quarterback's going to get killed, whatever your position may be. So that unity that comes out of that, when everybody's on the same page, and that chemistry, it took a lot to get to the championships. Yeah, we lost, but you still win when you lose at that level. And so the amount of just kind of forging that happens under that type of pressure, as far as who you become, is extremely important, because you're not going to get that if you're not participating in that. And I don't mean by participation trophies. I just mean by you're fully plugged in.
Yeah.
And your energy is tied into your next guy's energy. So that discipline, that consistency, the results that you get is phenomenal in terms of how it shapes your mentality moving forward. And you learn how to be selfless, more selfless and less selfish, because you have to contribute to a greater purpose where other people also have to help. And it can't just be based off of your efforts alone, or you can't just, hey, I'm going to just defer to this person to put in the effort.
And Jason, on this note, which is very, very, very well put here, so the parents watching, bottom line is this: get your kid in sports.
Yeah.
Not only that, we're in a day and age where there's no playbook for raising kids. Spencer, I got Spencer behind the thing here. He's got a young, what, 2-year-old. There's no playbook for us right now.
Yeah.
The playbook is this: keep your kids off devices as much as possible.
Absolutely.
There's a time and a place, and the way that you're going to do that is keeping them active in activities, and one of them is sports.
Yep.
So not only it's a twofold: keep them off devices, keep them, in the real world of interacting with actual human beings in person.
Right.
But like everything that you just said, that was so well put, man. That what you learn in sports can't be. It's not taught in books.
Yeah.
It's not taught in math, science. It's actually real world stuff.
Yes.
It's nothing in the books. It's literally how you interact with other human beings. I've always said this. The quality of our lives is dependent upon the way we interact with other individuals.
Yeah.
And the way that you're going to get your child to interact well in life and moving forward and maybe even become a leader is by having them interact with other kids.
Yeah.
And that happens in sports. And then, like you said, they rely on each other. So anyway, we could go on this for a while, but I'm glad this came up, because this is always very helpful for parents to hear something like this. Yeah. How important it really, really is to get your kids into some form of a sport, because there's so many learning lessons involved there. Okay, so, all right. So now,
to finish that thought, though, it also adds, if kids are feeling bullied, like when I was in grade school and had that bullying and being not tortured, but just kind of tormented by feeling isolated. What that helps a kid do is it makes them feel like they're part of something. And most often than not, the other kids that also felt isolated, who have joined that team, now all form this camaraderie and this bond that helps elevate each other. And it gives them a feeling of, I belong. And if your kid is struggling with that, they may never tell you that. But when they get on a team, they feel like they belong. And that's something you can't provide to your kid as a parent.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
I love that. Think about that. And I just got goosebumps again, because I'm coaching a flag football team, and these little guys, man, they're 6, 7. We had a practice yesterday. They literally were all over the place. They're in la la land, but they're so excited to be out there together with their buds that they're a part of something. It's what you just said. I really didn't even think about it that far.
Right.
Because if you got kids that are getting bullied, which happens most of the time, it's because they're isolated and they're a one-off, you know what I mean? It's huge, dude. I love that you brought that up as well. Okay, so now we're high school, all boys, right? Which I'm just tripping out on, by the way.
Yeah.
You can tell, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other event that happened in that school that would hit me with one thing that happened in there, or learning a lesson, and then we're going to move on and get on to college, and then we're going to funnel into start really digging into your entrepreneurship.
Teachers make a crazy difference in your life, and unfortunately for good reasons and bad reasons. I had a Spanish teacher my second year. Or sophomore year in high school, that I completely loved to go to his class. Mr. Davis always talked about, how about that jewel? Because he used to, make a good point. That was kind of a saying. But
it's like Rex Crane when he speaks.
Yeah, exactly. This is good. This is good.
Yeah, watch how powerful.
Yeah, it gets better. So he goes, I go to that second year of Spanish. I'm like, oh, this is good. I definitely want to continue learning this, because I know I may look Mexican, but I'm not Mexican. I don't speak Spanish. I'm just joking. But I was like, okay, being bilingual is going to be helpful. And so my junior year, I'm not going to name the teacher. I had was it junior or senior year? Either way, I think it was junior year, actually. I had a teacher that was vastly different. I mean, diametrically opposite from Mr. Davis. Made learning Spanish horrific. And he even got to the point where the kids didn't like him so much. At one point in time, I think I threw a pencil or an eraser across the room, and he gave me a referral, which was pink slip back in those days.
Yeah, like what, he sent you business?
Yeah, exactly. Today I'd be like, give it to me. But he gave me a referral, which meant I had to serve detention, and my parents would have to find out about it, because you get detention or referral. The referral was like the next step.
Oh boy,
just throwing something across the room. I mean, come on, guy.
Yeah, come on.
But apparently, if you get a referral, you are not eligible to be at that point in time homecoming king. So I was going to be I think I was nominated and I did not get that opportunity to run in that race because of that. Just,
oh man,
that's something simple.
Come on.
That was just like, nothing. That was like, that's vanity.
Yeah,
But as
yeah,
far
yeah.
as the learning Spanish and continuing that with like a different energy or fervor, lost it completely that year. So it's a shame.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's just one of those things that I remember. It was the dynamic of that presentation of value of this subject matter is going to be important for you. If that's not coming through you as an instructor, teacher, a helper, whatever the case may be, you tend to lose your audience.
So what would you say the difference between the two teachers was? One was passionate about it, one wasn't. One was checking the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not
The marginalizing. He was
the passion and the engagement between the audience, right? So you could be passionate but still lose your audience because maybe you're not engaged with them. And it's almost like there's, you're not a fan of your audience. And it came across that he wasn't a fan of the students. And unfortunately, that may just have been his demeanor. At a younger age, maybe we just don't realize that that's not how every presenter is going to be, or that's our expectation is different. Or maybe that was just my personal expectation that this teacher should be just as good as my last year's teacher. And because of that stark contrast, it didn't vibe with me. But you asked me what was significant. I gave you what was significant.
No, I like that. It's really cool. And that's also something to learn by of, how to engage with how to genuinely engage with your audience, no matter whether it's your business, whether you're speaking, right?
Or just one-to-one.
Yeah, exactly. Or one-to-one, like what we're doing right
exactly.
here. All right. So give me, okay, so we got the SDSU.
Yeah.
Anything in college we need to go over? Anything that happened that was crazy or learning experience or?
I made the decision. So I was living at home my first 2 years of college, and it's primarily because my dad bribed me with the car, and that's what I call it to this day.
That's right.
He's like, no, I just offered you that so you'd have something to drive.
Yeah, I gave you an opportunity.
Yeah. But he's a big softy, even though he's a tough guy.
I've met him
just like my brother and myself. We're soft at heart.
Yeah,
but
you are.
So after a while, I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't go partied up with all the ladies and stuff like that and live at home. So, I was like, hey, listen, I thank you guys for taking care of my first couple years of college, but I'm going to move out and I'm going to go ahead and pay for my schooling as well. And I think they were a little stunned at that point in time. But, traditional Indian culture, if we were living back there, there'd probably been a no-go. I probably wouldn't have had the bravado to do it back then because I'd have been in that cultural kind of, I don't know, that sphere that doesn't let you to say, I'm going to step out. And then people are like, oh yeah, that's good. Back home, it would have been like, what are you doing? Yeah. I would have probably been chastised by all my peers at that point in time.
For sure.
In this country, it's different. So for them, it was like, probably like, hey, he's, what can we do about this? We don't have any other cultural supporters that are going to allow us to say, no, you need to stay at home, son. So, moved out, started working full time, going to school full time.
Where'd you work?
So for the initial time that I moved out, I was training people and working at the SDSU rec center. So I was working about as many hours as I could, and then also going to school. So I was on campus and the facility there for, 60, 70 hours. Everybody knew me. And surprisingly enough, the people that worked up at the front, I knew. Kat also knew. And I never met Kat. So yes, we knew the same people, or a few of the same people. And she would work out there. I never saw her, at least not to my recollection. Now, her hairstyle was different, and a couple of
yeah.
So she looked a little different back then. But yeah, never saw her, never met her. And I knew a lot of people because I was in there so much, and a lot of student body went there. So that to me, and then I went and transitioned over to work with my brother, and I was working 7 to 4, and I took night classes to finish.
And when you went with your brother, that was the company that you went with. That you learned how to not run a company.
Exactly. So the significant part of that story was working full time, going to school full time. It did actually impact how quickly I was going to be done with school. And my brother finished in 4 years. I was expecting when I started I was going to finish in 4 years, but then switching my major 2 times. Actually, San Diego State's actually known for one of the best business schools in the country now. There's impacted classes. What that means is, or impacted major, it means that there are preliminary classes that you have to take to qualify to actually get into the major classes. So because of that, it actually pushed my graduation date out by, I think a semester, and then when I started working full time, it was harder to get those classes because I only had 7 to 9:40 p.m. available classes. So it pushed it out another semester to 2. And I was sweating because I was like, my parents are expecting me to graduate in 4 years. Now, granted, I took some of that pressure off by paying for it myself. So I'm like, hey, if I don't finish, it's not their dollar, it's mine. But they still had an expectation. I'm not trying to let them down. I started losing my hair.
You started losing your hair?
Yeah, that was my first encounter with severe like stress response in your body. It's called alopecia. I don't know if it's called alopecia areata, but it's a certain form of alopecia where you like lose certain nickels and dime size or quarter size spots of hair on your head. And I was like, what the heck is this? And at that point in time, it wasn't like you could Google Doc too much. You could.
Right.
But I did look it up, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I never went to a doctor. Like, this is what it could be, the stress. Like, I didn't know it could have that type of response automatically inside your body.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point, and that was probably like I said, one of the major turning points for me is I'm doing everything I can do. I'm studying, I'm praying. So why am I stressing? I just need to get this done and it'll be all good. Like, there's nothing that's going to affect me. I'm not dying here. I'm not going, to jail. I'm not doing anything wrong, all that stuff. So after learning or realizing that was the issue, it's like,
that's it.
That's it. No more stress. I made the conscious decision to say to myself, I'm not going to worry about things that are out of my control when I've done everything I can to take care of the situation.
And a lot of it, Jason, in life, everything revolves around making the decision.
Choice, man. Free will.
Yeah. Like, okay, I don't want to be fat anymore.
Yep.
Make the decision.
Yeah.
I want to be in shape. I don't want to worry about stuff. I don't want to worry about stuff I can't control.
How about this one? I choose to be happy.
Yeah.
That is something that is such a choice that people don't believe it's a choice, but it is. You choose your disposition. You could be in the worst circumstances ever. I remember going through my divorce, man. I was the most emotionally difficult time in my life. 2 weeks after moving out, I said, I'm going to choose to be happy and present the best version of myself to the next person I meet. Like that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You just made the decision.
I made the decision.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Just make the decision.
God has given you free will.
Yeah.
That is the biggest gift that we've gotten, man.
Because we all have the power within inside of us to be happy, to have joy.
Absolutely.
We've got it.
Yep.
It's not contingent on who's in quote unquote charge, who's the president, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing to do with them.
Correct.
Zero.
Yeah.
It's all within us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Absolutely.
All right. So, so now San Diego State, okay, you got the job with your brother.
Yeah.
Let's move on from there.
Yeah.
You said you didn't want to work for anybody.
Absolutely.
So where do we go from there?
We decided we wanted to open up our own fitness facility, and we actually put together a presentation. Liberty Station wasn't fully developed at that time.
Yeah.
And they had a building that it was a historical landmark, so you can't actually change the outside of the building. Actually, all of those buildings there are considered historical landmarks. So you could revamp or renovate the interior. You can't do anything to the outside. So I think it was who's the main builder at the time? McCormick and something. Thinking of the spice company, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Anyways, whoever they were, we presented to the curators of that property at the time, and a few other fitness locations like 24 Hour and Bally's and stuff had presented to them, and they loved their idea, and they wanted to actually have us come and occupy it. We needed to raise $10 million at that time to do that, and at that point in time, Logan had met Carrie, who you know,
yep.
And she had tried to get her connections to meet with us to get that going. And I think at one point in time, it's been 16 years, so I could be off on the story of what happened to them. I think one of them either got diagnosed with some type of cancer or something like that. The investors.
Investors.
Yeah. And at that point, that kind of that derailed our opportunity, because that's only through her we were hoping to bring, the money to the table, syndicate the funds, and get that project launched. So while that didn't happen, we then teamed up with her to get the credit card processing business going. And so she had already experience in the industry, my brother started with her and got things launched, and then I came on the team, and we started expanding, our reach as far as the portfolio goes to bring business into Advantage Payment Processing, as our company name was called, or is called. So that happened in 2006, and we continued that for quite a while. And in order to build my business, or book of business, I should say, I joined Business Network International, which is a networking company, and became entrenched in that work. And that's a referral-based network for businesses. And then I became a director for them. I started supporting 6 other chapters in town and continued on to the point where real estate became something that just, after the crash of 2008, it was still very interesting to me to get back in or not get back in it, but to start this. And I met a couple of key people in there that said, I can help you. So I said, okay, let's go. Got my LLC and worked with these people, got a project of vacant land and entitled the land. So that means we got the permits, or we went to the city, applied for permits, for development permits, got architectural plans built for 4 units on this property, and got that approved. And now what we've done is we've taken out the uncertainty of working with the city and as far as getting plans approved. And now this land is ready to be, what they call shovel ready.
Yeah.
So we could have built it, but I'd have to raise more funds to build it out, or somebody else could buy it from me and they could build it. So I ended up having somebody buy it from me, and I think I made a pretty good sum on that first project without lifting a shovel or tool. Right. It was all pen.
And
sign this, sign that. Hire people, designers, architects, and that stuff.
And you didn't need a real estate license. You didn't need any of that.
No, you don't. No. As a real estate developer, you don't need a real estate license. You just need to make sure that you're bringing quality licensed guys to the table. Now, if you're doing all work that's architectural, you need civil engineers, maybe structural engineers, things of that nature. So those are guys all by pen or computer, of course. But if you're actually, getting into the nitty gritty, breaking things down, building things up, then yeah, you either want to have a general contractor with a license, or you make sure that if you're project managing, that you have all of the sub trades that are licensed, insured, and bonded, so that you're protected.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah.
Yep. And so this day and age, are you still actively in that? Is it?
So I still have a couple of projects. One that's currently approved and ready to go. But we did file for a structural change. So as soon as that happens, that can take off. And then we have another 4-unit project that's in the city right now. We had delays with COVID and the shutdown. They were quarantining physical plans.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot to it. But that project is still a little bit behind. So as soon as that gets going, that'll be something else to develop. But for right now, based on where the real estate market's going, what you and I have talked about, overall, in general, my decision is to, after these 2 projects, I probably won't pursue it with any fervor. If something comes along, it's really good, maybe I'll consider it, but not actively. I have the wellness center going, and then we have other stuff that we're working on too.
And so so you got into the development, okay, then where from there?
So after working with that and still working with the credit card processing business, then we went into a business, a manufacturing business.
Okay.
And so there was manufacturing cannabis.
All right.
So the cannabis business, it was a very interesting business because there's so much benefits from that medicinal plant. So the cannabis space is always been something that's been intriguing, but I actually never used cannabis. I did. I tried it once when I was 18, and I got the different kind of response from it. Some people feel super relaxed. Some people feel
some people have anxiety.
Exactly. So for me, I had more of a elevated kind of response to it, where I was like, oh, I'm anxious. Yeah. Like, I'm seeing some stuff. It was a trip. If I would actually relate a word to it, that was it. And for someone like myself who's calm, in control,
you didn't like
it's like, it just wasn't something that I didn't actually drink all through college. So that's actually something that I didn't touch on is I didn't drink. Like in high school, people, it was funny, Catholic school, they say it's more money, better drugs.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. And so I never allowed myself to be involved in any of that stuff. So for me, drinking, using quote unquote drugs was something that, I'm not saying this to talk down to anybody, that's something like the common folk did to me. That was my personal kind of feeling about it. So I felt like if I wanted to better myself and elevate myself to the next level, that's not something I would participate in. And so to this day, the only time I really have a drink is when you and I, and we go out with our significant others.
Yeah.
I have the best scotch and whiskeys at home for other people when they come over.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, if they do, I may have like, a 2-finger pour as far as that goes. But that's it. Like I'm a one and done type of guy when it comes to that. Primarily because I do like to potentially be in control.
Yeah.
But I also see it as, one, if other people are indulging and something goes wrong, you need some person.
Someone's got to be in control.
Somebody's got to be the anchor.
Absolutely.
Or be able to navigate the waters, right?
100%.
So I'd rather have people rely on me and not let them down. I mean, it's honestly, that's how it all ties back, right? Versus everybody being a what show, and then nothing gets accomplished.
So back in I want to touch on this because you said more money, better drugs. Were kids in the high school that you can remember? Was there a lot of drugs going around?
Not in the school. Not in school day to day. I'm sure at the parties, and my parents weren't big on us going to parties as far as that goes. We went to some, and to be honest, I can't honestly say that I ever saw somebody doing, any type of a super illicit drug. Yeah, I was told stories. Yeah, from my own, classmates about other classmates. Right, but at that point in time, you just consider it at least now, I just consider it hearsay. You know, however, you should talk to other people that went to other private schools and the same thing that they say. So there's a consistency that you really have to question. Oh, everybody making this stuff up, or is it really going on? But just as personal reference, I didn't drink. And so only after college did I find myself like, okay, I'd like to taste this. And people are probably going to cringe at this, but I would taste vodkas, just sip them on ice because I want to taste the flavor. Yeah. So I'm like, is this stuff really legit? Like, but it was never to get a high or get drunk or whatever the case may be or get intoxicated. It was just because I wanted to see, is there something to this? Like, what makes people want to get so,
so wasted? Yeah.
So that was it. And and it's funny because Kat always says, like, I've never seen you drunk. I'm like, I never go out. I never have that urge. It's just not, I don't know. I guess once you get that feeling, it may be enough that's a constant desire. It's just not one of mine. Yeah.
All right. So now we're in the cannabis manufacturing business. How did you get into that?
So, my brother saw a clip with Dr. Is it Sanjay Gupta? Yeah. On TV, and it was talking about a family who had a child.
And this is what year now?
I think he saw 2016.
2016.
Yeah. So and then 2016, 2017, and it was powerful because the child was going through having epileptic seizures, and they were getting cannabis to treat this. And so what has been the history, I don't know if you know the history of cannabis.
I don't.
Okay. Yeah. So the interesting thing about cannabis in itself
give it to me.
Is that it really was called cannabis back in the 1900s, even the 1800s, and people were using it because it has medicinal plant value. It has medicinal value. Back in the 1910s, the Mexican Revolution happened, and Mexican immigrants were moving to, the United States. And the hysteria that was built up around cannabis was that it was considered reefer madness. And the reason for that is primarily because of racism. That's what people don't know, is that the whites, to be honest, did not like the immigration of the Mexicans, and they started to call cannabis marijuana. So marijuana is actually, I think the definition is actually prisoner, but it's a racist, it's a term that doesn't promote, the right type of mindset. It promotes a negative connotation towards cannabis and the actual medicinal plant value that it has. So what happened was in 1936 or 37, a gentleman by the name of Harry Anslinger, he was newly appointed to the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. It was a new division that the feds just announced. And so his kind of campaign was, either through fear or dislike or racism, was to say reefers make the darkies go crazy. And he he and a bunch of other people actually started a broadcast that if they allowed cannabis to stay legal and allowed people to use it, it would basically compromise people's values, and it would make white women want to sleep with black men. Wow. And it would make black men want to rape white women.
This was a thing.
It wasn't a thing, but it was actually being said, right? Yeah. The hysteria was built up about it. They were saying that they will become violent. And so that type of scare tactics we've seen maybe recently, right?
Maybe, just a little bit.
And so then it became banned in 1937 on the Marijuana Tax Act. Okay? And so you look at that history, and what's funny was that message was being spewed in spite of the people that were researching it that said, no, this is a solid plant. This has great medicinal value. It should not be essentially banned. Fast forward 36 years later, President Nixon's in office. 1972, he starts his own commission, the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse. His own commission that he funded through taxpayer dollars tells him that this has great value. It should not be banned. It should not be made illegal. He disregards it and puts it on the Controlled Substance Act on Schedule 1 with heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
Now, cocaine is a stimulant. Alcohol is a depressant. Heroin is an opioid. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are you doing classifying a plant with this much value? And for people who don't know why it has value, we have a God-given system in our body called the Endocannabinoid System.
Yeah, get into this.
We have CB1 and CB2 receptors that affect the central nervous system. So when you actually use cannabis, you can affect, it can be an it can actually be an anti-inflammatory. It can be an analgesic, which is a pain medication. So when you talk about using that versus opioids, and we have an opioid crisis in this country currently,
time.
Right?
Yeah.
President 45 over there talked about that in his campaign and trying to address that. But if you use an opioid, what that does, it blocks the pain receptor from receiving the pain signal from the brain. But you get addicted, okay? And it comes with all these other side effects. If you're using cannabis for it, it does the same thing. But guess what, JD? It's also an anti-inflammatory. So you're blocking the pain signal and you're reducing the inflammation. Why would you want to be addicted to opioids versus using cannabis at that point in time? Now, microdosing is going to be one of the things that it really boils down to moving forward as far as how it can be used. Because right now, in terms of its actual dispersion or its distribution in the body, you can smoke it, right?
Yep.
You can do the dried flower. You can do the cannabis vapes, which are the oil. You can do the pre-rolls. You can do the gummies. You can do butter. There's shatter. There's crystals. There's so many different ways that it's broken down in regards to its method of distribution or consumption in the body. But the key thing is it has so much use and so much medicinal value. And the whole reason why any type of drug is put on a schedule is because on a Schedule 1 is because it has no medicinal value and it's considered addictive.
Right.
Right. And so you may find somebody that can be dependent on cannabis, but dependence and addiction are quite different. Dependence is more of physical. Addiction is going to be a mental.
Yeah.
And so you can't break it. Like you cannot not use it in spite of knowing how bad it is for you. Dependence is like physiologically you're going to have some withdrawal symptoms, right? Because you're using excess of it.
Yeah.
So, and that goes with anything though. You use something excessively, you drink too much caffeine, you're going to have a problem.
Right.
Right? Caffeine's legal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's so when you discount the amount of value that it brings to the table, and now it's been subjugated and it's been oppressed for so long and it's being held political hostage at this point in time. To this day, it's being held political hostage. We have, 37 states that have approved it, or 38. It's almost 80% of the country.
Right.
In terms of states that approved it. And the federal government still is saying that it's illegal. For what reason? What actual practical reason does it make sense? Well, what does pharmaceutical companies provide? Right?
Yes.
And so then, but on top of that, last year, I think in June, somewhere in June, middle of the year, Judge Clarence Thomas, one of the judges on the Superior Court, he says that we are actually contradicting ourselves as the federal government concerned, because they are tolerating it, but still and taxing it, but still considering it federally illegal. You know,
Yeah.
That's a contradiction.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, we want to get the benefits of the tax dollars from the guys that are actually creating this for state revenue, but you're still going to get penalized if we choose to, or in the sense of they're not going to get the same federal tax breaks because it's still considered federally illegal. We still want your tax dollars. You get no breaks because it's illegal, but you still got to pay your taxes. It's unbelievable.
It's insane.
It is.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So, and so you guys got into
We started
that.
the manufacturing. We filed for a license. So the city of San Diego and different counties started to allow for application for licenses.
Yeah.
The city of La Mesa actually was one that their terminology was conditional use permit. So you had to file for a CUP in order to be in one of their zones, or in their green zone, as they called it, which was an industrial zone, to be able to manufacture cannabis. And so there's different verticals of the cannabis market, right? So there's cultivation, which cultivation, man, it is a science in and of itself, right? You can have the best botanists come up with the most significant strains. You can have CBD heavy strains. You can have different types of THC heavy strains, and they'll grow it. And then you have to have what's called the extraction process, right? And so you extract the concentrate from the plant matter, right? And then, or the biomass as it's called.
Right.
And then from that, you actually distill or refine that extracted plant matter, the concentrate. So it's like oil distillation or refinery, right? You're refining the product to get it to finish so it can be used as gasoline. In this case, so it can be put into vapes, gummies, whatever else the other, actual end-all media is going to be. So we were in the actual distillation vertical, right? That was our manufacturing expertise. Actually, it wasn't originally. The actual guidelines, the regulations under that CUP was that you had to have at least 6 months in the cannabis space before you could get approved. Okay, so if no one has issued a license, how are you supposed to get 6 months of experience? It's like getting on the SAG, as an actor. It's like, in order to get that, you need to get a SAG job, but then you need to have a SAG card. So you can't get a job till you get a card, but you can't get a card till you get a job.
Right.
Oh, what are we supposed to do here?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So nonetheless, we filed for our CUP. We paid a lot of money for our architect to develop plans. We were going to scrape the lot that we were actually in a lease to purchase option with the owner in the green zone. And we're like, we need to find out how we're actually going to manufacture this stuff. And so we had to set up, an operation to start manufacturing. And so we did, and we got really good at it because, we're smart guys and we prayed about it. I mean, our intention wasn't to, look, when you start any type of business or enterprise, your goal is, hey, how am I going to sustain this, right? How am I going to turn it to profitability? So no matter what, that's always going to be in line with starting something. You're not going to do it as a hobby.
Correct.
We're putting in a license. Like, we're going to take this as far as we can possibly go. But the main reason why we did this was because when my brother saw the impact of how much it made on that family, that had to actually, the mom had to take the daughter to Denver, Colorado, because Colorado was the place that was, and they were not in Colorado originally. I forget where they might have been Arizona, whatever state that was closer to Colorado, which was currently legal at that time. The daughter and the mom were staying there while the father was in the other state, and the daughter was getting the treatments for her seizures or her affliction that was being treated through cannabis. So at some point in time, they'd have to move back or they'd run out of money. And it's like, this stuff is expensive. You can't get what you need. Why is it not legal? There's got to be more to this. So the long-term goal is get licensed, get the best R&D team that can actually find out what are all the different cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are the certain compounds within cannabis that make it so potent for different, let's say, issues within the body. So whether you have, like I said, if you're having anxiety, it can reduce anxiety. If you're having pain, it can reduce pain. It can also be used as an antipsychotic. There's so many different things that it has properties for, but besides THC, which is one of the cannabinoids that are found in it, the scientist Dr. Ralph McElhone actually discovered that in 1964. And then in 1980, he discovered CBD. So everybody knows about CBD nowadays. He discovered that in 1980, okay, the year I was born. And he was surprised that no one did anything with CBD, even though they found back then that it would have a dramatic effect on people who were having epileptic seizures. 35 years later. So 2015, 16, or actually within the last 5 years, GW Pharmaceuticals actually came out with Epidiolex. Epidiolex is to help kids with Dravet syndrome, which is childhood onset epileptic seizures. Why did it take that long for that to happen, right? In the whole meantime, other pharmaceuticals were being given.
Of course.
I mean, it's almost a shame, and it's disappointing that we have to keep going back to that well and saying, look, you guys, I mean, we're not letting people draw their own conclusions to a certain extent, and we are pointing back to the pharmaceutical company. But I have no regrets doing that, because that's honestly how that's why healthcare is in such shambles as it is, and that's why people's health in general is in such shambles. But it's only recently, within the last 3 to 5 years, has cannabis gotten some steam as, hey, this is a legitimate product that has true medicinal value, and it should be promoted to one of the top things that should be allowed for people to use when they have different issues. And if more research dollars was given to it. See, that's the other problem. The federal government has made it illegal on controlled substance, or Schedule 1, and on the Controlled Substance Act. So people can't get grants for it. Scientists can't get federal funding to study it. And that's what we're like, well, if we're not going to get a grant for it, we're going to come up with the money to pay for the chemist, pay for the botanist, to grow and to find out what are the combinations, or what are the cannabinoids that are going to provide the most benefits for people. And that was our goal, right? I mean, 100% to make a profit, but also 100% to how many people are going to benefit from the research that we get done. Our facility was going to be over 15,000 square feet. 2 levels, for production and for research. Granted, we had been strung along by the city of La Mesa. Over 2 years passed before they even actually approved a conditional use permit. But the only reason that happened was because they were taken into lawsuits by 2 of the early submitters, or the guys before us, so to speak. There was a list of, I think, 100 different people that submitted. There was only 40 licenses being issued. So regardless of that fact, we continued to operate while waiting for our license, because we needed to know, one, when we get our license, when we get our stuff done, are we going to be successful? So we could have potentially paused at that point in time when we found out the first time it was going to take longer than it was. But at that point in time, it's like, we had said our prayers about things. We knew this is the direction we wanted to go full-hearted. We didn't have any qualms or anything in our hearts that are saying we're doing something wrong. We're not following man's law. We're following God's law, as far as we were concerned, because this is being restricted for nefarious reasons. There's no legitimate reason somebody can tell me today. I will debate with anybody why it should be restricted from anybody being able to use it. Granted, you want to put some guidelines and regulations around it, like, hey, you got to use it responsibly. Sure, 18, 21, you maybe have to have a license, whatever the case may be. But there's potential for it to be, like I said, microdosed at a lot better level. Once again, we have other things that should be microdosed, like psilocybin and other different, plants, mushrooms that are currently banned for what? Purely based off of ignorance and or for political agendas to be furthered, so that somebody else can come in and say, yes, I'm for this. So all you constituents that are for this, come vote for me. Like it's such hocus pocus, right?
Yeah.
And so if we really wanted to look at a contrasting drug called alcohol as a depressant and find out why is that legal and why is so much marketing dollars poured into that when, you know, part of the narrative that they shaped back then in the 70s was cannabis is a gateway drug. To what? When's the last time you saw somebody on cannabis beat their wife? When's the last time they beat their kids on cannabis? When's the last time they robbed a store? When's the last time they killed somebody in drunk driving? I mean, I'm sure that, you know, some people have used it and driven and there have been crashes, but not to the same degree as we see over 10,000 deaths a year that are alcohol-based related, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the perversions that happen with people that use alcohol, murders that happen off that. I mean, you're using cannabis, you're using it to relax. You're not using it, you know, for other reasons to get hype and to be in parties with people. Regardless, man, I'm going off on a tangent.
And alcohol with abuse, it's number one.
Yes.
Right?
That is a gateway drug to all of those other, you know, negatives.
Yeah. Alcohol leads to other bigger drugs, cocaine, go down the list.
Yeah.
And alcoholism it's, you know, and especially with the quote unquote pandemic this past couple of years, man. Yeah. It's a known thing that it's now, you know, alcohol, it's a serious thing.
It's a lot of tax dollars that are lost if that goes banned, right?
Exactly.
I mean, and why is even tobacco even allowed? I mean, let's not even go there. But that's another thing. It's like just the senselessness of all these things, right? It's like you ask common sense questions, and you put alcohol, you put tobacco, you put cannabis on the table, and you ask common sense questions, and you can really give common sense answers. And at that point in time, you get the clear winner or front runner. Yeah. But to this day, political hostage.
It's too simple.
Yeah.
You put all those on the table and start, like you said, you know, talking about each one. Yeah. It's not even a question.
No.
And I actually get pissed off, and I know you are too. I get pissed thinking about it.
I do.
The fact that the government is like sitting there trying to, and then we're glorifying alcohol, we're glorifying beer, like every other
responsibly.
Drink
responsibly. Who?
Those two don't go together.
No, they don't. I mean, granted, most, you know, there are people like myself. Like when I say I drink, if I was to say I drink responsibly, I drink one for taste, and I very rarely even get two drinks.
Yeah.
But that may be once to twice a month. If we go out once a month, that would be the only time I have that drink. Yeah. But in reality, and I still don't use, actually, I don't even use THC, the THC component of cannabis right now.
Yep.
I have used it before because the combination of THC, which is the psychoactive,
correct,
and CBD, promote a different type of full spectrum healing and benefits for the body. If you isolate the different cannabinoids, they can have, it's more like single arrows for singular targets.
Yep.
When you put them together, it becomes like almost like shotgun, that it spreads and hits the whole body with much more benefits. So there's full spectrum, there's broad spectrum, there's isolates. I could go down the list and keep talking, but you know, to come back to the story, yes, we continued our production. We thought we were on the brink of getting our license. We did not get our license, and we ended up getting our lab shut down by the feds.
Yeah. By the feds?
Yeah, by the feds. And so even though our attorneys are like, look, this is a simple licensing infraction if it was state-based, because California was the first state in 1996 to make it approved medicinally. And then in 2016, I think it was the first state to make it, maybe not the first state, I think maybe Colorado, was to make it available recreationally. So you have medicinal cannabis, and you have recreational use cannabis, right? And so there are a lot of states that are both or just medicinal.
Right.
And then there's, I think, maybe about 11 to 15 that are currently also allowed for the recreational use as far as that goes. So because it's at the federal level, you know, we were faced with a much stiffer penalty, right?
Yeah.
And so that was a unique situation because we were like, okay, look, the biggest issue we could have is going to deal with the state and saying, look, we have all our evidence. We have the licensing. We have the agreement for the lease to buy in the specific green zone. We have the architectural plans, you know, bam, 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 bam. So we didn't expect to have to deal with the federal government on this part. So that was, you know, being taken in quote unquote handcuffs for that is like, it's like this is surreal because once again, there was not an ounce of wavering in my brain or my heart that I was doing something against God's law, God's will. It's like this is a contrived, deceitful, duplicitous government that's put these restrictions on this, and maybe not the existing government, but the people in power have not done anything to remove it. So you're continuing to perpetuate the lies, right?
Right.
In my book. So, spending 16 days in, federal prison or correctional center is quite a unique experience.
Okay, so tell me how that went down.
So, as you talking about from the time they banged on the door?
Yeah.
They banged on the door early Monday morning.
So you guys were all in the facility?
No,
house?
No, this was the house.
Oh, this was your house?
Yeah, this was the house. Yeah, Kat had actually just flown out of town.
Yeah.
So she wasn't there, which was kind of good in one way.
Yeah.
Kind of bad in another.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't there. And so, apparently they went out to, my brothers too. And so picked us up.
This is what year? 17, 18?
No, this was 2019.
19, okay.
Yeah. Picked us up, took us down there, and
so what they do? They came to the door and they're like, you have a right to remain silent, all that stuff, or what?
Oh no, yeah, they have access to all your information, of course, right? So they can look and see whether you have a history of violence, you have a criminal history, your jacket, as they like to call it. We had none of that.
Yeah,
we are business owners. Not an ounce of imperfection on our history.
Yeah,
but they came with I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 different agents.
Yeah,
all gunned up.
Yeah,
for what?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
we had no indication that we were going to be armed and violent, armed and dangerous
outside your place.
There was about, I think, like you said, roughly 10 to 15 officers right outside the house. Their cars were, not marked because it wasn't police; it was feds.
It's feds.
Yeah. So, they came banging on the door. It was funny because the roofers for the complex were working on the roofs that for 2 weeks, because they had other units to work on.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought it was them banging on the roof.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping, man. It was like 6:30 in the morning. And so I didn't get up. And then finally I ended up getting up and looked out the window. I'm like, oh, well, look, my welcome party's here.
Yeah.
So I go downstairs and they're like, did you hear me banging on the door? I'm like, I honestly thought it was the roofers. They didn't know.
Yeah.
They're like, why are you giving me that BS?
Yeah.
It's like, they didn't know that the teams were there just recently, the day before, working on it. So of course, they say, ask you who you are, then they say, these are your rights, and then they arrest you. And
so you looked out the window. Did you kind of have a feeling what it was for?
Well, when they shut down our facility and they confiscated all of our equipment and so forth.
Oh, they had already done that.
Yeah, they had done that back in May. This was 6 months later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they had already done that.
Yeah.
Did they storm your place then, like feds and everything?
No, because they had to go do more research of who actually, had the quote unquote lease and stuff like that. And so after they found that out, we already retained attorneys and had our attorneys, indicate to them that, hey, look, if they need us, we'll come down. We'll make sure we're available for whatever. Of course, they chose to bypass that.
So the city shut you down originally, the facility?
No, it was the federal agents did.
They shut the
we weren't at the facility when that happened. So
you weren't?
No, we were not.
So how'd you find out about it? You went there and it was closed?
Yeah, we had seen it. Seen a lot of activity over there, and one of the people that we know had told us that happened. So,
and so what did you do? Did you contact your attorney and say, hey?
Yeah, we did. Because we had already had one retained, because it was a delicate situation at the time. But we're also, like I said, we had our things in place that we wanted to get in terms of our licensing that we were working through. So at that time, it was a call to them, let them know, and then we each had to get representation. So and like I said, we told them. Yeah, our attorneys told the federal prosecutors, like, look, these guys will come down. Whatever's needed, let us know. 6 months later, they just come stomping on doors.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys didn't need to do this. Just make a call. We're coming right to you.
So 6 months later, they're outside your. So then you obviously knew what it was.
Yeah, that's what I said. My welcoming party's here.
Yeah, your welcome party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so they bring you. Where'd they bring you to?
So it's called the MCC, the Metropolitan Correctional Center, known to other people. We didn't name this. Known to other people as the Mexican Country Club.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's not actually a racial by any means. It's just known by that because of the concentration of Mexicans that are held there.
Yeah.
Primarily because that's a center, because it's in San Diego, that's a lot of where they get the individuals who are crossing the border and bring them to. And the reason why they call it a country club, this goes into a whole nother foray of our, man, I don't even know how to classify it, our judicial system. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But these guys are picked up down there for crossing illegally, whether it's just trying to get across illegally or get drugs across or smuggle other people across, whatever the case may be. I think it was like 13, 14, maybe somewhere between 13 to 15 floors in this place. And about 80% of everyone there was of Mexican descent.
Yeah.
And they get there from, out in the field, in the desert, crossing the border, and they get into a place where they're now given clothes, food, shower, TV, commissary, medical care. They don't want to leave.
That's why it's called the country club.
There you go. So but this is what happens. They get there, they get released back. Okay, they commit the same infraction again.
Yeah.
Just so they could get back in there.
So how long are these guys staying in this country club?
So they stay there until they actually have their court date, like their
could be months.
Yeah. And then we get in there, and we're getting to our arraignment, I believe, for that day, and we hear guys in there banging on the chairs or the benches. We want lunche. I'm like, what are these guys saying?
Yeah.
And we asked one of the judge guys, they're like, they want lunch. And it's like, they're demanding lunch? Demanding?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You're cuffed up. Yeah. Chain, leg cuffs, handcuffs, all that stuff that you see in Con Air, practically. And it's like, these guys are demanding stuff. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And so the officers come by and like, you'll get it in like 20 minutes. And they're like, going, they're like, it's like a game. They were roaring and laughing and wow. They're ridiculous.
And so when they picked you up at the house, did they put you in cuffs behind your back?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
Did they turn around?
Yeah, I needed 2 sets. They're like,
You could put your arms behind your back?
You'd need the same thing.
Yeah, forget it. Yeah. Can we do in the front?
Yeah,
please?
That's literally my arm, my wrist or my palm started to turn blue.
Yeah,
blue, red, black and blue. But yeah, so just sitting there, I'm like, I was like, of all the situations that could happen, this is the one that we have to deal with.
So who did you call first?
Well, actually, I texted Kat because she was on the plane and she couldn't get a call, and I was like, hey, I think these guys are here, and then so she flew right back. She got off the plane and flew right back. So then she knew what was going on. We didn't get a phone call till I think, was it later that night or the next morning, something like that. Yeah, because all day it was like being transported and court and all that stuff.
And so they kept you in that facility, or did you move to another facility?
Yeah, we were in that facility, and that's the holding center for court, because they take you underground to the court. It's like I don't know how long the walk is, but all linked up, chained up, through the underground railroad to the court. And so then they take you back, and it's like this long ass process. So the first night we get there, and they're they look at our card for my brother and I, and there's different floors. There's like floors where they're protected individuals. I can't tell you how it all works, but I know there's like non-violent floors, there's violent floors, there's protected individuals like the ones that are Chester molesters guys that would probably get done in other floors that they keep all together. So I don't know what floor we were going to get put at, but one of the officers looked at our cards and was like, "You guys brothers?" And we said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay." And then he looked at the other guy and he's like, "We're going to change him to this floor." So they moved us to some other floor that was probably a lot better than what we were originally assigned.
Yeah.
And we get to that floor, and then it's 4 quadrants to this location, and you have like a lower part of it's like a split level, right? You have a lower level and you have a higher level, and basically that's one quadrant, and you have another quadrant over here, another quad over here, another quad over here. 75%, so 3 out of those 4 were all Mexicans.
Yeah.
This is the term they use for the last quadrant: blacks, whites, and others.
Yeah.
That's what they use for that
Yeah.
quadrant. That's what the COs use, correctional officers, and that's what the detainees use. So we get up there, and one of the officers comes up and is like, "Okay, we're gonna try to find you, place to put you." And my brother says, "Hey, can you see if we can put us together?" And this guy was he was only there for a couple more days. Officer Keys was his name. Still remember him. Really nice black guy. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll see what I could do." And he comes back. He's like, "Hey, the only thing that we have is in the blacks, whites, and others." And it was funny because one of the guys, who was a Mexican guy, being a detainee, came up to us and was like, "Hey, man, you should wanna come with us, because you never know when you're gonna need our help down the road." So he's like trying to talk all serious and tough, like we were in danger of this stuff of nature. And we're just sitting there like, okay, well, wherever they put us, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
But we're not siding with anybody as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So he comes back and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna put you there." And we look over, and it's actually on the upper level where all the white guys are. And so one of the white guys looked like a skinhead.
Yeah.
And this was like probably, I don't know, 50 yards, maybe 60 yards away as far as where we were at for the entrance to that quad. And he just kind of looks up like that and does a head nod. And so we do a head nod. We go up there, and, once again, we're darker color.
Yeah.
You could assume whatever we are.
Right.
But as we get older, we probably don't look completely Mexican as far as that goes. So, we started, we went up there, and there were some guys that probably looked a little tough,
Yeah.
But we're not small guys either.
Yeah. Right.
So I think that, and we're older.
Yeah.
I think when people are younger, more impressionable, and, look like easy targets,
Yeah.
that's what happens in there, that they get impressed upon.
Yes.
But we were talking to these guys. Actually, we ended up talking to them, and he actually made it to the Officer Keys, got us our own quote-unquote cell.
Yeah.
So my brother and I were in the same one.
Yeah.
Had we not had him,
Yeah.
we'd have been split up, could have been in completely different quads.
Yeah.
Could have been on a completely different floor.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see that not being God's hand guiding everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing through this that does not speak to me that says this was not still guided by God. Okay?
Yeah.
So we spend 16 days in that place.
Because that's intimidating. That's a little scary.
Well, the thing was, I don't know how to tell you, man. I wear that shirt that says faith over fear.
Yeah.
And it truly is the way that I walk my life now.
Yeah.
And I've walked it for a long time, probably since college.
Yeah.
There's no more fear that I have to live by. I don't fear death. I don't fear anything. It's like I'm either going to do everything that I possibly can, or I've done everything I possibly can to take care of the situation, and I've prayed.
Yeah.
So there's no more fear. And so when I'm in there, granted, it is somewhat intimidating, but then at the end of the day, you just kind of recollect yourself. And it's like, all right, I got no problems. This will all be resolved. Because once again, I didn't have an inherent discord going on inside of me. I didn't have chaos. I was settled. I knew why we did it. I knew how we did it. I knew what we did concurrently to make sure it was all legit. But yes, we still made our decision to move forward with operations in spite of. But at the end of the day, I felt still then and there we were going to still have victory.
Yeah.
Okay. So by the time we left, I know we got to keep going on this, so I won't spend too much time. But by the time we left, we had a couple of the older gentlemen asking us. They're not asking us. They're like, "Man, we wish you weren't leaving." And my brother and I were laughing.
This is the facility.
This is in the facility.
People that you were there with.
Yeah.
Not guards or.
No. And they were like, because the energy that's come across from when you guys are here to before you guys got here has been ridiculous.
Wow. You made an impact in there.
We made an impact in there. We were talking to these guys about their life, about, fitness, about their faith, and it made an impact because a lot of these guys are younger. They're doing stupid things, but a lot of the older guys sensed their kind of intensity, their chips on their shoulder, their brutality, their negativity towards, each other, the outside world.
Yeah.
And that comes in, and that's in a concentrated boiler, room type of environment. And so while we didn't see any violence, obviously, while we were there, no one came up to us and tried anything as far as that goes. everybody was more than respectful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because we gave everybody respect too,
Yeah.
you know? And so that was very interesting to hear, because it's like, you would never thought, hey, I'm going into this detention center and I'm going to make an impact on some of these people's lives. And we actually still communicate with a couple of the guys who were in there at the time and got out and were like, hey, man, I'd love to have your number and still connect with you. So that was, you know, the worst thing about spending any time, or dying for that matter, spending any time away from your family, is the fact that they have to kind of mourn your loss, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't get to have you. But wherever I go, I'm at peace, man. You know, so for me, I'm okay with that. But I know the closest people around me would be affected.
Yeah.
So I already know that victory is going to be for us, because I've already put my faith in God as far as it goes way back then. So I don't have any qualms about that. But I know that, you know, man, I know that Kat definitely had some, on top of the stuff that she's already dealing with, right, that she talked about. She had that story to essentially affect her as well.
Yeah.
You talk about a powerful woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've told her this a million times, dude.
Yeah. Powerful, man.
Oh, yeah.
So she chose to get off her stuff while that stuff is still pending, so to speak, right? She still doesn't know what's going to happen. What's the outcome? Think about the magnitude of that decision for herself. So if anybody can choose their disposition, she's the example.
And what you're talking about is her getting off the anxiety,
Yeah.
right, medication.
Yeah. How much did I add to that anxiety, right?
Right. So, folks, if you didn't watch her interview, what he's talking about is 20 years of medication for anxiety, and she got off of it, and it really was hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. She still did it.
Yeah.
And also dealing with this now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
man. And that didn't come up in our interview.
She wanted, you know.
She wanted to?
No, I mean, yeah, of course she, you know, it's something that obviously she's had to share with just a couple of really close girlfriends, you know, because she needed some outlet.
Of course.
But not too many people in my circle know it. And you're at the top of the list as the only person that I haven't really told, other than, you know, maybe one or two other people that know. So.
Well, so Jason texted me last week, and we went to Emerge, and Emerge, I would say, had quite an impact on you, would you say?
Yeah, it was a powerful experience as far as that goes. I think in this day and age, to know people that are working on themselves actively, to see that, because we don't know where everybody's, you know, we see a polished figure to a certain extent, and it's like, what have you really done? We're hearing about it, but we don't really know it. That's where you actually see the work going on.
Yeah.
You know, when you hear about a championship team, do you know how much practice they put in? You really don't. You just see them kind of produce. So that's practice, man. Going to service, it's practice. Praying is basically practice.
Yep.
You know, sound like Iverson now.
Yeah.
Talking about practice,
Practice.
man. You got to practice.
Yeah.
You know, so.
You do. Wow. So give it to me one more time. So the older guys said, man, we don't want you to leave. How long were you in there? You said 15, 16 days?
16 days.
16 days. So on the day, you're like, all right, guys, we're out.
Yeah.
There were some guys who were upset.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, they love just chopping it up, having you guys around.
They did. I mean, we were playing spades, you know, card game with the guys, multiple. I mean, rounds. I mean, you got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You know, you're playing spades. You're talking to them. You just, you know, you're hearing their stories, and you're just trying to help them understand and put things in perspective. Of you don't have to look at it with such a negative lens. Like, there's positivity to have in this situation and coming out of the situation, but you got to grab hold of it, man. You can't consider yourself a victim, you know? So we had a lot of really good heartfelt conversations with guys that probably had a lot of, you know, pent up frustration, pent up anger, and who wanted to change their life. But, you know, something I've heard is you can't want for someone else what they don't want for themselves.
Right.
And so no matter how much we actually spoke to these gentlemen, it's still up to them to choose to make that. But sometimes if you never get spoken to, you never think that you actually have that choice, right? So it is something that's a personal, you know, kind of responsibility. I think if you are in a position to give somebody some good, solid advice, especially if it's being solicited from you, and they were asking us,
right,
you know, this stuff. So I don't typically give anyone unsolicited advice, but if they ask me, then I will definitely lend my ear to listen, and then give them, you know, my perspective or observation.
Which I love that, because it took me many, many years to come to that term right there, because I would give out unsolicited advice a lot, and I realized that nobody wants to hear it. They have to actually want to hear the information. They have to actually, to ask you the information. So that's huge that you said that, even in that facility, in a detention facility. Unsolicited, they wanted the information. So talk about a learning experience and a growth experience going through that, man. So since then, what's happened now? That's 3 years ago.
It's 3 years ago. So, we didn't. We were looking at in the last 3 years.
Did you have to go to trial, like to go to possibly go to jail further?
Yeah. So I can't. There's so much. There's only so much I can give you in terms of details. But realistically, the way the federal system is for Schedule I drug is they have mandatory minimums in terms of your sentencing per count, and so. Let me put it to you this way. The way the federal government works is they try to strong arm you into making a deal. These are just the facts. 97% of federal cases do not go to trial.
Correct.
They go to pleas. And out of that 3%, there's actually a significant amount that actually do win out on that trial. But that being said, what they originally say to you is this is the worst that we're going to come down on you with if you don't make a plea. You're facing 20 years to life. That's what they tell you. That's what they told us.
Yeah.
Right? So depending on whatever in our case, what our infraction was, in other people's terms of their crimes, that's what they're saying. So, you could be like, oh, I'm staring down the barrel of 20 years to life and be completely scared, or realize that, well, that's your law, and I'm praying to a higher power that trumps all of your laws. So our thing was, we know that cannabis was in the running to be potentially rescheduled, descheduled, decriminalized, or legalized. We just don't know when. So our goal was, I shouldn't say our goal, our hope and our prayer was that essentially it's going to happen within the time frame of whenever we have to go to trial, do whatever it is strategy-wise that we have to do. We didn't know COVID was going to come around. Our court case got delayed 9 times. So,
wow.
For that to happen, once again, whose power are we dealing with here? Sure as heck not man's power, right?
Wow.
So now it's at the point where one of the senators, is Schumer, I think it is going to release his act that he feels is going to be approved by the House and approved by the Senate, right? First week of April, I believe. And if it makes it to, the current incumbent president's desk and he signs off on it, that kind of, washes away a lot.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, we still have some things that we're looking at trying to execute in the meantime to rid ourselves of this infraction. And it's not really my terminology for it. It is our attorney's terminology for it. Like I said, it is a licensing infraction.
Yeah.
And if it was with the state, it would be, his words, not mine, not even a misdemeanor, right? But because of the federal inconsistency and we'll leave it at that. It is what it is. So, it's still kind of pending as of right now. And
as of right now, it's pending.
Yeah.
So at any time, you can still go to litigation over this.
It's it would be a trial, right?
Trial
or a plea.
Or
right.
a plea.
Yeah.
And so would you say, and listen, I already know the answer because, your faith is that this is going to be fine.
Yeah.
But what are they? So they're at this point, they're saying that you're facing.
If we go to trial and not take
plus.
a plea, yeah, exactly.
That's what they're still saying.
Because they essentially, that's how the system works processing wise. Is the more handshake deals that they can do, attorney to attorney, prosecutor to defense attorney, they can turn more cases around in a short amount of time.
Exactly.
And there's money to be made on that level.
Of course.
So fines, restitution, all of that stuff, man. It is a very. I know recently of a couple of attorneys that have left the actual state's attorneys and federal attorneys' offices because they didn't like how much power and misuse of power that the federal government uses to actually manipulate these cases into what they are or where they go.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
So the attorneys that I've heard have left the office, the office of the federal government, it's because they don't like the amount of power that they misuse to kind of railroad these cases into pleas, as far as that goes. Because they they strong arm you. They
Yeah.
they tell you we're going to take away everything. They tell you we're going to throw the book at you. I mean, they try everything as a scare tactic to derail you from going to trial.
Right.
If you fully have a belief that you can win, you'd rather roll that dice. Like, don't roll the dice is what they're telling you. Right?
Correct.
Make that plea.
Yeah.
Take 3 years, take 4 years, whatever. It's better than 25 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's currently still up in there, man.
What a sick system it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate unless you're in it, or unless you have to deal with it, you don't realize how bad it is.
Yeah.
Because you only hear the horror stories.
Correct.
But my vision through faith, repetition, and expectancy, and actually expectancy was one of the things that Rex Crane talked about last Sunday.
Yeah.
Was you step into whatever it is before it happens in your mind, in your belief. Man, I stepped into victory for this so long ago. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that I still sleep. Look, we talked about this earlier, right?
Yeah.
Sleeping in less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm tooting my horn, or maybe I'm not, but I don't know how many people would have been able to still feel like I can live my life with this hanging over their head.
Not many.
And once again, praise be to God, glory to God on that, because I learned and I was blessed with that ability to be like, I choose how I want to feel. I choose my disposition. I'm doing everything I can for this, but I've prayed now for the victory that I know you're going to give us. I'm going to fall asleep at night.
Yeah.
I'm going to start a new business. I'm going to continue to help people, right? And so then whatever happens, come what may, it's all good.
Well, listen, that business, as you've said, cannabinoids, it's all positive.
Yeah.
There's literally nothing negative about it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the lethal dose, it's funny. There's an LD50, which is called the lethal dose 50 marker. You could die off of Tylenol before you could die off of cannabis.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally nothing bad about it.
Yeah.
No matter what the media tries to shove down our throats or whatever. Nothing.
Right.
It's only positive. It only actually naturally heals the body in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And the
crazy.
research that has been done on it has from the early 30s to the 70s to now is only continuing that positive narrative versus negating anything. There's nothing that's come up in the contrary.
Nothing.
And there's still so much lack of funds, directed towards its research. So you really have to then, once again, common sense question. If all the research has showed, even as small as it is, that it is positive, why is it still illegal at a federal level? Why has there been so much effort for it to get to 37 states and not all states? Why is there still a divide between red and blue, conservatives and liberals in terms of this? Like there should be no political hostage situation with something this valuable to the American people, but it is, right? So common sense question is, and answer is, it should not. And if you want some regulations around it, sure. I don't know which is the responsible party to allow that, but nonetheless, I mean, man, it's unbelievable.
And do me a favor. So I'm going to have you sum this up one more time, and then you and I are going to land this plane.
Yeah.
Sum up what cannabinoids, how it operates with the body. You said we have systems.
Yeah, so we actually have an endocannabinoid system. Endo meaning within.
Yep.
Cannabinoids are actually the valuable acids and molecules that provide benefits to your body.
Got it.
We have cannabinoid 1 and cannabinoid 2 receptors that affect our CNS or central nervous system. That's what actually helps it be, once again, like an anti-inflammatory, an analgesic, an antipsychotic, all the different kind of quote-unquote anti or crossovers that will help your body. That's how it works, right? Because we naturally receive that. We don't have receptors for alcohol.
Right.
We don't, so it's like that's not even in the same playing field. It's not even the same ballpark as cannabis. So let's continue the research. I mean, you don't derive anti-epileptic medication from alcohol. We got it from the cannabis plant because we found out CBD has that value. So there's so much more to be found out about. And the acids like THCA or CBDA or CBGA or CBGN, the acids are even that much more potent. In order to get those acids, the extraction process has to be even that much better. The distillation process has to be that much better. So the growing cultivation process has to be that much better. So all of those verticals need more funding so you can determine how you can make this in mass amounts so that's not overly price prohibitive, because we knew through the manufacturing time that we were in how much the pricing of certain stuff fluctuated with its availability and its demand. And so it's just immense, man. The amount of benefits that are yet to be pulled out of that, ridiculous. I can't wait till it's actually fully legalized and people are able to get their hands on it to actually research and extract the best, content that it has to offer.
I use CBD drops on a regular basis. I love them. I can feel relaxation immediately. Yeah. My mom uses the CBD cream for her joints, like nightly. On her knees. Yeah. Like there's times where she can barely walk. Her knees are hurting so bad.
Right.
And I got her CBD cream, and she rubs it in. She says it's absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
The pain goes away, and she can actually sleep.
Yeah.
So this is real stuff.
It is, man.
And we're giving it out to, like, some of her friends are now putting it on. No. And at first when I was like, no, that's drugs. I'm like, Mom, relax. Yeah. It's CBD. We're good. Yeah. And now it's a regular thing.
Right. And that's just CBD.
That's just CBD.
That's just CBD. It's not even it's currently illegal to put THC with CBD and sell that, but it's like, don't even get me started.
Yeah. It's annoying.
Yeah.
Isn't it annoying?
It is, man.
It is. And
it's frustrating.
And alcohol's in every other commercial. And drugs with 55 side effects for an entire minute. One of which being you can die.
Yeah, right.
And that's okay.
Right.
That's completely 100% acceptable.
They've made it okay to subscribe to that type of model over the years of programming and honestly brainwashing.
Yeah. That's okay. My child is watching these commercials.
Yeah. Think about if they made a hysteria around pharmaceuticals versus the hysteria they've put around cannabis, right? Oh, it's reefer madness. Oh, it's going to make the darkies want to sleep with white women. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine that when there was no social media or
that history is incredible.
And just word of mouth. Yeah, just word of mouth passing that along. So you have nowhere else to justify that, right? You can't get any counter information to that when the government's pushing that narrative, or people in the government, let's just not call it the entity, but let's say people in the government are pushing that narrative. How do you, as a person with no ability to find a contrary viewpoint to that or substantiate that it does work, where do you go for a contrary belief? Yeah. You don't. You just say, okay, well, I guess the people in power are telling me this, and that's correct. Nowadays, the reason why it's getting so much more steam is because you can actually do your own research. You can go down a rabbit hole and see, oh, this was the history of it. Makes complete sense to why we're at where we're at now. Yeah. Doesn't make sense to why it's still banned or feels federally illegal. But wow, this is a shame. This is an actual, tragedy as far as what it's not being able to be used for. So, yeah, significant.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. And I decided this recently. I'm going to finish with a couple of questions here. Okay? And one of them was, I think it was Rex Crane where we keep bringing up Rex Crane.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Oh, dude, yeah. I
Faith
love
healer.
Rex. Yeah. I hope you listen to this someday. I love you. You're the man. All right, faith healer.
Yeah.
I think he was the one who said something like, rather than asking yourself, or maybe was it at the conference, rather than say, hey, what would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self? Remember somebody said, or was it the bishop?
It was the bishop.
Bishop said, what would you tell your 50-year-old? Like whatever is. Yeah. So I'm going to lay that on you. What would you tell your 50-year-old self, your 41?
Right.
Wow. That was profound.
It was interesting. Tell your 50-year-old self. The message that's stuck with me since high school, since we touched upon this, was, when you take on something, don't do it, don't half-step it, right?
Right.
And saw me get cut the first time I tried out for football when I half-stepped going into everything. So commitment is huge. And we heard this a lot during the course of the Emerge, was the just show up.
Yeah.
But what are you going to show up and do? Right? I mean, are you just going to show up and stand there on the sideline, or are you going to actually participate? So I love some of the things. That's the other part about team that your kids will get is being contributing to, is you'll hear some of those mantras or those axioms or those credos, like commit to excellence. If you're going to do something, don't just show up. Show up and show up to actually earn the victory.
Yeah.
So my 50-year-old self, well, I don't know if this sounds as powerful, but it's just continue to commit to excellence, right? I tell my 50-year-old self, just look back at what that's actually given you from the time you decided in high school to commit to excellence and where that's gotten you now. Yeah. Don't ever waver from that.
And that's not necessarily meaning that you need to be the best and compared to other people.
Right.
that just means your best self.
Correct.
Your best version.
Yeah.
Of yourself.
I committed to excellence in terms of the best version for me when I went through my divorce, and I stumbled upon Kat.
Yeah.
Or she stumbled upon me, really, because she had the medical boot on. You know that story.
That's right.
Yeah. So that once again, if I hadn't had the commitment to myself that I'm going to be happy, that her energy and my energy would have never lined up.
Wow.
And because you know her, she's bubbly, she's exciting, she's charming.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing to be around. My energy wasn't on that vibration. We would have not connected. We would have, may have said hello, this, that, and other, but not to where hey, we're going to get married in 2 weeks.
No. Like if you had done the normal thing that normal people do, get caught up in your pity party, playing the victim card.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have connected with her.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Listen up, folks. If you're still listening and watching, we're 2 hours in. We're over 2 hours in.
Are we serious?
Yeah. My videographers are looking at me.
Gotcha.
I know when we're getting close, they start looking at me like with the look.
Yeah.
They got the look. Yeah, don't worry. Just make sure we have good cameras, bro.
Right.
I don't want to be losing the volume or the audio on this. Anyway, so what was I saying? The cat.
Yeah,
so,
if I hadn't chosen.
Yeah, because most people, and again, most people in their lives are feeling sorry for themselves. They're pulling the victim card.
Right.
And that right there, what you just said, bro, and now look where your life is now because you're with Kat. You supported her on her faith journey. Now you're locked in with Awaken. You and I are sitting here. You're wearing your legendary gear from Emerge. Look where this is going next.
Yeah.
Think about it, dude.
Oh, yeah, man.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so here's my last question. Yeah. And I'm going to start doing this on my guest. Because
I feel privileged now to be with the first.
You are.
This question.
Yeah,
right.
this is great.
Unless it's a crazy question.
This is great. This is power. Watch how powerful. Rex, look, watch how powerful. This is good. If you guys haven't watched Red Crane, he says that all. He says that all. Watch how powerful. I love it. Yeah. All right, so I'm huge on why. Because people say, JD, how are you motivated all the time? How are you always fired up, passionate? I said, well, my why is huge. Like why I do what I do every day carries me through.
Right.
Number one, of course, family, but number two, I'm not going to get into mine. So I want to push into you a little bit here. So along the way through this stuff, going through what you've went through right there, especially what you're going through right now, all the success you've had, starting another business where it's taking you 1 to 2 years to even try to become profitable, because that's a normal business, by the way. It takes 2 to 3 years.
Well, we opened in the heart of COVID, too.
Yeah, right in the heart of COVID. What is your why? Like, what every day drives you to do what you do, to eat perfectly, to drink water, BCAAs, have a great diet, work out, take care of yourself, and be the best version of you every day, be successful, help others? What drives you every day? What's your why? Along the way?
Yeah. The why originated from my parents, right? And that was originally to fulfill kind of their dream for us. So they instilled that upon us. And it was take pride in your work, right? Be aware. I mean, there's so many nuggets that they instilled in us as far as that goes. And so my brother and I are blessed to have that upbringing, amazing upbringing. And that's our emotionally charged connection, if you will, to this world and to other people, is if somebody's going to rely on us, we can't let them down. I mean, it gets me choked up every once in a while when I talk about my parents, because of they did everything possible to put themselves in a scary situation.
Yeah.
And just for my brother and I, it's unfathomable, right? If you never do it, to just think that's something that, oh, me as a parent can do that for my kids. So that's the origination of the why. The continuation of it is you set a standard for yourself that you want to live up to. And it's, for me, having, I guess, a part of it is a product of circumstance, right? Not having the things that other kids had. Even in high school, like, we had kids driving up in brand new Lexuses and Mercedes and stuff like that, right? We had a beat up old car that my dad passed down to us that we could drive. And for us, it was a win, but it was like, man, I came from very little in terms of what I received. Granted, I received a lot more in terms of a non-physical or materialistic sense. But because of that, I was like, I want to earn and I want to get as much as possible from this life that I didn't feel like I got when I was a kid. And then it continued on to, man, I can really help people change their lives when I got into personal training. And I saw the reward that was intrinsic, that these people actually, through me, are making a difference in their emotional and physical, or their physical and then their emotional well-being. That continued to drive me forward. So it's definitely the milestones along the way that I look back at and be like, wow, like I've gotten nothing but pure internal intrinsic reward from helping others. And in order to be able to help others and have that alignment that says, I'm doing everything that if you're asking me what to do, I'm telling you, I can't. It's like what Bishop said.
Yeah.
If you're watching one of those old Japanese movies and they're making and then the audio comes in after, it's like there's a disconnect there. I'm not going to be living my life like an old Japanese movie where I'm saying one thing and doing another, because that sound and that visual is not going to connect.
Yeah.
So what keeps me going now is, if you're going to ask me how to get to be successful, I better be doing exactly what I'm telling you. As far as getting to success is, I should be doing the same exact thing. And that's the reason why I do what I do now.
So you're basically constant pursuit of excellence. In
Commit
yourself
to
and
excellence.
everything.
Absolutely.
Commit to
man.
excellence in
Commit to
everything you do.
excellence in everything that I do. And as you said it earlier, which is the right way to say it, is commit to excellence at your own level of excellence.
Right. Correct. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Godinho. Real deal talk. Dude,
Real deal it was.
Dude, I can't believe it's been over 2 hours. I want to keep going here. I love this.
We can run it back at a later date. There's more important people to come up here than me, man.
Come on.
Yeah.
This was so good, though, man. But I want to dig further. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap.
This was legendary.
Legendary. Right on.
Radio voices.
That's a wrap, baby.
That's a wrap.